This time of life is very unpredictable. The COVID-19 has altered our lives as people. People have lost their jobs. Entertainment events have been canceled. Movie production has been halted. Businesses have closed temporarily. Unsurprisingly, the coronavirus changed consumers' buying habits. Those changes have helped some businesses thrive and others suffer. Some businesses suffering are either forced to shut down their businesses for good or on the verge of closing some of their locations to downsize. The retail industry in particular has fallen into this category. Retailers are facing an unpredictable future. According to USA Today, retailers have announced in the US alone, there are 2,210 permanent closures taking place this year. Get this, many of those closures were planned before the pandemic even began. So I'm going to share which retailers are shutting down stores to survive, and others that are on the verge of collapsing. We know from the past that even large retailers can face complete liquidation. Toys R Us is a prime example. Before I begin, be sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell to be notified every time I release a new video. And now, here are 10 retailers shutting down because of the coronavirus. Number 10, Nordstrom. Out of all of the retailers on this list, as of now, Nordstrom was hit the least as a result of the coronavirus, though they are feeling the pinch nonetheless. That could partly be because the clothing retailer doesn't have the huge presence like some of its rivals. Nordstrom has about 116 full-line stores in the US, in which 16 of those are permanently closing. California, Florida, New Jersey, and Texas are the main states that are seeing those closures. This comes at a time when the company's shares, valued at $2.8 billion in May, fell a whopping 56% this year. In response to the closures, the CEO of Nordstrom, Eric Nordstrom, announced that the company has invested in an improved digital and physical infrastructure to keep up with consumer expectations. If done right, this could work in their favor as they emphasize its off-price stores through the delivery of new trendy clothing. Aside from the 16 full-line stores closing, they are also permanently closing the 3 Jeffrey designer boutiques they own. They came to realize that luxurious and fashionable clothing and jewelry are not in the consumer's primary list of things to buy at this current moment. Number 9, JCPenny. JCPenny, a major retailer that's been around for 118 years, is one of the largest retailers that's feeling the sting from COVID-19. The retailer filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on May 15th of 2020. In so filing, they're set to close down 154 locations throughout the summer, so a 10 to 16 week period. A total of 224 of their locations are expected to close as planned from their bankruptcy filing. That's about 30% of their stores. This comes as they're reopening 500 of their retail store locations in areas where the coronavirus activities have lightened. The major retailer is reportedly in talks with Sycamore Partners. They are a private equity firm who are reportedly looking to buy out JCPenney's to keep the company from facing permanent doom. Though as JCPenney's isn't leaving us for good, you can't argue that they haven't been hit hard from this pandemic. Number 8, Neiman Marcus. Neiman Marcus, a close competitor to Macy's, is a luxury retailer with luxury department stores throughout America. Unfortunately, the premium quality products that they sell don't seem to pique interest from Americans, as they have other priorities. The idea of luxury living is in the back burner. As a result, Neiman Marcus has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and are planning to shutter all 43 of its US stores. According to Deutsche Bank AG, one of the retailer's lenders, they breached the terms of a $760 million asset-based loan when they overvalued their inventory by $159 million. As a result, the luxury retailer's ability to restructure its business is in question as the overvaluation brought them to default. This is only one of their lenders, as they're looking to restructure and eliminate $4 billion of its $5.1 billion debt. The future of the CEO of the luxury retailer is looking pretty grim. According to New York Post, the lenders of Neiman Marcus are looking to replace the current CEO after he announced a bankruptcy plan, saying that he lacks the skills to restore order for the company as a result of COVID-19. Coronavirus or not, business must go on and lenders need their financial returns. Number 7, J.Crew. It has been reported that fashion chain J.Crew was struggling financially before the coronavirus hit. Because of the deadly pandemic, the major retailer is another one of the large companies that wasn't able to adapt to the turmoil. This is primarily because of the chain's temporary closure of stores. This in turn pushed the retailer to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the first week of May. They have reached a deal with lenders to convert some $1.65 billion in debt into equity. This comes to no surprise as the company has been struggling with debt for years. It turns out COVID-19 was the final driving force for their bankruptcy filing. They have been in talks with a real estate consultancy and liquidator to evaluate their leased stores to possibly negotiate rent relief. So as of now, no stores of theirs have been announced of permanently closing, but the possibility of that happening is high. Number 6. Forever 21. At its peak, Forever 21 was opening stores every 6 months. Now times have changed, and the retailer may forever be shut down. Forever 21 filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy back in September of 2019 after mounted debt plagued the chain store. At the time of filing, they planned to close 100 of their stores and maintain the rest of their business. So their financial struggles were well known before the pandemic hit. This year in February, they had finished working a deal to sell off some of its assets to a group of investors led by Authentic Brands and Simon Property Group. This was to help them get back on track. However, the pandemic has put a halt in their chance of a comeback. Now the future of the retail chain is uncertain. Number 5. Stage Stores. Stage Stores helps operate hundreds of stores across different brands including Gortman's, BL's, and Goodies. They have 738 stores. How many of them will still be operational is uncertain. The major retailer was the third large retailer to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in early May of 2020. They plan to liquidate sales at 550 of their stores. That's 75% of their stores they have. They proved successful in competing with chains TJ Maxx and Burlington Coat Factory. However, their lack of cash reserves is the reason of their downward spiral, with only $26 million in cash on hand. Stage Stores owes between $500 million to $1 billion to over 10,000 creditors, including Nike, Ralph Lauren, and Adidas. Like many retailers, their ability to reopen the stores they plan to keep will fall on whenever the government gives the okay. Number 4. Joann. Joann nearly survived during the 2008 recession. Back in 2011, the crafts manufacturer filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This was as a result of losses in product placement as retailer strategies changed and competition was heavy. Fast forward to 2020 and history may repeat itself. Though there's been no report of the crafted goods provider filing for bankruptcy again, they are reportedly one of the retailers in jeopardy. As like many other retailers when the coronavirus hit, Joann's stores were temporarily closed. But before those temporary store closures, various government orders had forced the company to permanently close 45 of its locations. And the locations they have in operation have not experienced double-digit revenue increases. Steep competition from online retailers will not help matters either, as they have little online presence of their own. To top it off, the previous trade wars with the US and China led to tariffs on goods the company sells. A representative of S&P predict the company to liquidate within the next 12 months. Number 3. GNC. Before the pandemic began, GNC, the retailer that sells vitamins, minerals, and workout supplements, had struggled to obtain a bankruptcy loan to buy them time to restructure their business model and pay off debt. Their plan included permanently closing around 304 GNC locations. This was before COVID-19 surfaced in the US. COVID-19's presence has now put a hold on GNC's efforts to pay off their debt. In fact, they reported a net loss of $200 million in the first quarter alone. They've been in talks with bank and loan debt holders for an extension or waiver of repayments. They are looking to work off around $895 million of its debt. As of May of this year, 1,300 or 40% of its GNC locations have been closed. Though GNC hasn't filed for bankruptcy protection, they have mentioned that option being a possibility in the near future. Number 2. Sears and Kmart. It's no question that both Sears and Kmart have been struggling for years. According to USA Today, Sears and Kmart have closed 3,500 stores and cut 250,000 jobs over a 15-year period. Since being out of bankruptcy for over a year and nearly facing liquidation, both retailers have just been trying to survive. But the coronavirus may cause both companies to face liquidation. In February of 2020, there were 51 Sears and 45 Kmart stores set to shut down for good. Sears is expected to have only 118 locations remaining, and Kmart only having 50. At the time of Sears' bankruptcy filing in 2018, they had 700 locations. The COVID-19 pandemic may become the final chapter of a tale of two once dominant retailers slowly fading out of existence. Number 1. Pier 1. Pier 1's furniture and home goods has had a place in many Americans' homes for years, starting back in 1962. They specialize in imported home furnishings and decor. So you can imagine the difficulty of them receiving imported goods during the US and China trade wars. That, coupled with the COVID-19 pandemic, didn't help matters either. So much that currently the furniture and decor provider is sadly the only retailer on this list whose fate is sealed. Yes, Pier 1 Imports is going out of business for good. They've offered sales up to 30% for their goods in a liquidate sale event. This comes as they make their plans to close all 540 of their store locations, which should finish by October of 2020. So how did they meet their end? Well, the retailer had been struggling to set itself apart from heavy competition from Walmart, Target, and Wayfair, all who had strengthened their home goods offerings. Pier 1's products, though great in quality, were dubbed out of style according to critics, meaning that the average shopper wouldn't have much use for them. Had they gone with a more streamlined approach, they might have stood a chance. That and a steady decline in sales throughout the years continuously dug them in a deeper hole. In fact, the beginning of 2020, Pier 1 had 942 stores, in which they planned to close 450 of those, cutting thousands of jobs. Aside from that, they were cutting 40% of headquarters staff. Come February 17th of 2020, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to reorganize their business structure. This put the troubled retailer on the ropes as they searched heavily for a potential buyer to bail them out. But the inevitable happened when COVID-19 spread throughout the US, leading to government orders for stores to close temporarily. Unfortunately for Pier 1, this led to permanent closure of their entire business. And that was all 10 retailers that are shutting down because of the coronavirus. I'm curious, were there any retailers that I missed? Are you sad to see Pier 1 go out of business? And which retailer on this list would you be unhappy to see go next? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Take care and stay well.